Maxwell, the raindrop who wouldn't fall. Written by Joseph Moore and illustrated by Jaclyn Donnelly. Early this morning, just after sunrise, the wind began pushing a large silver cloud across the sky. Inside this cloud lived a great many raindrops that, like all raindrops everywhere, stayed inside the cloud, flying around the sky, until the day when they had grown big enough to become part of a storm. This was the way that it had always been. Always, that is, until the day a young raindrop named Maxwell came of age. The wind began to slow down, and the cloud slowed down with it, right over a small town. Hundreds of raindrops prepared to fall from the cloud and soak the ground. Maxwell could hear their excitement as they made plans for their landings. "I'm going to land right on top of a big house," one raindrop said. "Well, I'm going to smack right down on someone's head," said another. "Well, I think that I will land on top of a big house and then bounce off and land smack on someone's head and then bounce off and land on a big puddle with all my friends." To this, everyone laughed. Even the cloud shook with laughter. Everyone knows that raindrops can't bounce. As soon as they stopped laughing, they started falling. Except Maxwell. He wouldn't fall. "What's wrong, Maxwell? Why won't you fall?" asked the cloud. "I don't want to," he replied. "But why? You're a raindrop. That's what raindrops do." "That's just it. I don't want to be a raindrop. If I fall, I don't know where I might land or what might happen. I want to be a bird." "I understand, Maxwell," said the wise old cloud. "But you need to realize that although a bird is carefree, it could never live without rain. Besides, does a bird really know what lies ahead or what might happen next? I don't think so. It just flies. That's what birds do. Think about it, and maybe you will be ready to fall later." Then the wind pushed the big silver cloud across the sky. A little while later, the wind began to slow down and the cloud slowed down with it, right over a big city. Once again, Maxwell could hear the excitement from hundreds of raindrops as they prepared to fall. "I'm going to fall as fast as I can and make a really big splash," one raindrop said. "Well, I'm going to fall as slowly as I can and just dance on the wind," said another. "Well, first I'm going to fall really slow, and then I'm going to go really fast, and then just before I reach the ground, I'm going to do a bunch of somersaults." To this, everyone laughed. Even the cloud shook with laughter. Everyone knows that raindrops can't do somersaults. Just like the earlier group, as soon as they stopped laughing, they started falling. Except Maxwell. He wouldn't fall. "What's wrong, Maxwell? Why won't you fall?" asked the cloud again. "I don't want to." "But why? You're a raindrop. Remember, we talked about this earlier. That's what raindrops do." "I know," said Maxwell, feeling a little embarrassed. "The thing is, I still don't want to be a raindrop. I look down and all I see are people carrying umbrellas and wearing hats. I don't think anyone wants me down there. I want to be a rainbow."
"I understand how you feel, Maxwell," replied the cloud. "But you need to realize that although a rainbow is lovely and makes people smile, it would never appear without rain. Besides, does a rainbow know that it makes people so happy? I don't think so. It just shines in the sunlight. That's what rainbows do. Think about it, and maybe you'll be ready to fall later."
Then the wind pushed the big silver cloud across the sky. Much later in the afternoon, the wind began to slow down, and the cloud slowed down with it, right over a big farm. Just as before, Maxwell could hear the excitement inside the cloud as everyone else prepared to fall. "I have an idea," said one raindrop. "Since we're the only raindrops left, why don't we all fall in the same spot and make a huge puddle? Maybe, if there are enough of us, we might even make a pond," said another. "Well, I'm going to land by myself and make my own puddle." To this, everyone laughed. Even the cloud shook with laughter. Everyone knows you can't make a puddle with just one raindrop. Just like before, as soon as they stopped laughing, they started falling. Except Maxwell. He wouldn't fall.
"What's wrong, Maxwell?" asked the cloud. "All day it's rained and still you won't fall."
"I don't want to."
"But we agreed. You're a raindrop. That's what raindrops do."
"I know," said Maxwell. "I just don't want to be a raindrop. Everyone is happy to go and make a big puddle, but that's not what I want. I want to be something beautiful. I want to be a flower."
"I understand how you feel, Maxwell," replied the cloud. "But you need to realize that although a flower is very beautiful, it could never live without rain. Besides, does a flower know how beautiful it is? I don't think so. It just grows. That's what flowers do. Think about this, and maybe you'll be ready to fall tomorrow."
Maxwell loved the cloud, and he thought about everything that he had said. He thought about it as he hung from its edge and looked down at his friends who had made a huge puddle. He was still thinking about it when he noticed a small flower on a corner of a field where none of the raindrops had landed. Even from this distance, he could tell that the flower was thirsty and would dry up without water. He looked all around, but he was the only raindrop left. The flower needed him. He then had a feeling that he had never known before. It was a moment before he realized it, but suddenly he was proud to be a raindrop. He said goodbye and thanks to the cloud and leaned out over its edge. Just when he was directly over the flower, he let go and began falling. The wind calmed, and he fell slowly, and he could hear his friends cheering him on from their big puddle. Everyone was so happy for him. Just before he landed, the flower turned up toward him with the last of its strength. He landed softly right on top of it and started laughing. "Thank you," said the flower, smiling at Maxwell. It was nothing," Maxwell replied with a giggle. "I'm a raindrop. That's what raindrops do." Well, this appears to be a self-published book. Copyright Joseph Moore. First edition, January 2011, and second edition, December 2012, 1,000 copies each. Looks like if you want to know any more about this, you can go to www.maxwelltheraindrop.com.